Alright, so today I would like to address a little subject called the rapture. I have been meaning to make this for about a week or two, and I had the time but just didn't, and now I'm feeling like time is really running out. There are some hefty things aligning right now, so let me try to get this rapture video out and posted. So, a lot of questions about the rapture. A lot of people think that the whole thing's made up, just some scripture blown out of proportion. Some people believe that, the Christians that want to believe in rapture are just, they just want to be rescued from bad times, and they don't want to go through anything, so they want to, they want to believe that God is just going to take them out of the bad stuff and let other people go through it. And I think they see it as hypocritical. They see it as religious and kind of an amalgamation of both religious and cowardly. And also just kind of weird, kind of culty, I guess. I mean, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone who maybe had never heard of it at all, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that haven't. And but there's still people who they are curious about it. They have questions about it. They want to know the biblical basis for it and all that. I don't know how deep I'm going to get into that, because what I feel like I'm leaving this for is for the people who know that there is going to be one, but not sure when or why. And I don't have my Bible in front of me. I'm just trying to hasty-pasty put this up, but I will try to recall some biblical basis things, which, FYI, I'm pretty terrible at. I'm really good at remembering the gist of things, but not the specifics, so we'll see how well I do with this. So, the rapture. Will it happen? Will it be pre-tribulation, meaning, before we enter into the apocalyptic events? Will it be mid-tribulation, meaning during, or post-tribulation, meaning after? My answer to that is yes, and I will tell you why. I will attempt to tell you why as quickly as possible. Okay. So here's the thing. The biblical basis for the rapture comes from a couple places, but mainly, a couple places. In Matthew, I believe. I think it's the only gospel. No, I won't say that. I think it's in Mark. I don't know. It's in at least, and it's definitely in Matthew. Okay. They ask him, about the time of the end, and of course he lays it out. And Jesus talks about the events that lead up to the end times. And while he's doing this, he talks about earthquakes in various places, wars and rumors of wars. Things that a lot of people are familiar with. And he calls them the beginning of birth pains. Then there's a, sort of cryptic part about the abomination that causes desolation, standing in the holy place where it doesn't belong. And when this happens, you need to flee to the mountains, if you're in Judea, and just all this weird stuff. And he makes a point of saying that no one knows the day or the hour when this is happening, including him. He does not know, only the Father knows. That's what he says. So, a lot of people take that to mean that, people who set dates, people who even really bring up the rapture, or people who kind of are the watchmen who are saying, hey, I think this is kind of a high rapture alert or whatever. Some people are fine with that, but most people think that you shouldn't be doing that at all. They think because Jesus said no one knows the day or the hour, that he meant don't bother trying to figure it out, or don't bother even thinking about it, because it's just going to come at a time when you don't expect it. So, but that's not what he said. Because right after that, he says, therefore keep watch. And the reason why he goes into this whole description of the end times is so that when it gets to that point, we will be able to recognize it. And he gives this parable where he says, you can tell by the way, the way that the wheat looks or whatever, that it's ready to be harvested. Or you can tell by the way that the clouds form or whatever it looks like in the sky that there's going to be a storm. So he's saying there's a way to know when this season is coming. And him saying that no one knows the day or the hour was not so much about you're not going to be able to figure it out, you can't know it, so don't even try. That was him speaking about, to me, it sort of spoke to the level of gravity that this decision has in heaven, because not even Jesus knows about it. That's kind of a big deal. I mean, this is someone who has been given all authority in heaven and earth by the Father, and the Father really just has the ultimate authority on that decision, and it's just going to be based on his say-so. And it kind of speaks to kind of almost like the amount of emotion and investment that God has in the world. Like, I don't know if it's that he doesn't want to burden Jesus with the decision, or that, he's just sort of keeping it to himself for whatever reason. I mean, I'm sure Jesus can kind of sense it himself, but, ultimately, we're talking about something, a mysterious, spiritual being that all things comes from, that is basically, him and the Father are one. So this is a secret, you know what I'm saying? But people get really religious with that, in my opinion, and say, oh, well, he must, then let's not even try to know, because we want to be as holy as Jesus is. So we're just going to act like we don't even know what's going on. It's like, no, that's not what he said. If you want to pore over the scriptures and try to figure out some of this stuff, there's a blessing that's attached to that. He's not going to curse you because you're trying to figure it out. God's not going to bless you because you're living blissfully in ignorance. Like, the more blissfully in ignorance you are about it, the more holy you are. And, the more you try to, figure out things in pinpoint times, the more you're going to be accursed, because you're not being obedient by trying to figure this out. It's like, what? Guys. So, aside from the laundry list that he gives as an obvious indication that he wants us to see the signs, it says later, Paul talks about, a great mystery where we won't all sleep, but some of us will be caught up in the clouds, meet the Lord in the clouds. And it doesn't say rapture. I think the word is like harpazo or something in Greek, and it means like a catching away, which later became rapture. But he mentions it briefly, and he mentions it mysteriously, but it seems to corroborate something that Jesus was talking about when he said that, we talked about those end time things happening, but also he talks about, something happening where two people are walking along a road, and one is disappears and the other is left, or two women are, doing whatever women do, and one is taken and the other is left. So there is some sort of mysterious event that is supposed to be happening. And Paul says that kind of the same thing that Jesus says, where he says, those that walk in darkness, they don't know what's coming. They can't see. And, don't be like the drunkards who stumble. The nighttime is their time. Walk in the daytime. And, when you're walking in the daytime, things don't catch you off guard. So they both talked about a soberness and awareness of your surroundings, a knowing and intuition about the times that you're in, being an indication of the end. And to some degree, I think that every generation has felt that to some degree. I think it sort of, when you become a Christian, it's something that you inherit along with the Spirit of God. You get this sort of sense of belonging to a family. You get an understanding of your nature, of your state in the world. You become hyper aware of the sacrifice of Jesus, And you also have this sort of faint knowing that he is coming back. And there's all these different moments where you're like, is this the end? Is this the end? And I think every generation has felt that in one sense or another since Christ came. Okay, now we have a visitor again. So anyways, so yeah, but what I think is different than any other time in history is the biblical lining up of events, which has a very narrow window before it all doesn't mean anything. So the main sort of linchpin event is Israel becoming a nation in 1945 or 46, I believe. It's something that was specifically in the Bible, and in the interval that it's prophesied about, there's things that have to happen after Israel, the people of God, are gathered together in Israel again as a nation. And it's a 70-year event. Well, there's only a couple dates you can go by. You can go by, the moment that Israel being a nation was actually ratified, the moment that they met and made it happen. I mean, there's a span of maybe 6 months. I think it's between actually right now and like May that something can be happening. And this also, unlike any other time in history, is a really tumultuous time. There's other things going on. There's other prophecies that could be possibly fulfilled right now. It's not like it's 1988 and the biggest thing that's happening is like Back to the Future coming out. It's like we're about to have another president, one who may or may not also be an important part of prophecy. This is pretty much the test. So yeah, once he took office a second time, it was really sort of like, that's when everything went to high alert. And it has been that way until this moment. A lot of people thought some things were going to be fulfilled during his presidency. So for a minute there, it kind of looked like, oh, well, maybe we got all that wrong. But now that we're coming within days of him leaving, there's all this stuff coming up, and it's like, wow, leave it to him for to have this last minute thing happen. So everybody's really on edge and watching for things to unfold, and it really comes down to this UN resolution with Israel, where they're deciding what they're going to do with the land. I mean, this is a hot button thing biblically, whatever your feelings about Israel are or not. I mean, some people say that Israel is the people that are living there that are Jews aren't even really Jews, and just people have all these off the wall things about it. But here's the reality: they're not coming for Israel because it's full of counterfeit Jews. They're coming for Israel because, actually, I don't know why, but I know that it fulfills prophecy. Whatever the real reason is, the spiritual reason is, God only knows. And they've done it a couple times, and this time they might actually succeed. And when that happens, when they start, sort of sectioning Israel off and sort of cutting it up like a cake for all the nations, that's pretty much the beginning of the end. If you know anything about end times eschatology. So it's just a really, 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 it's just a poignant hour. And I don't know if any of you guys have studied Bible prophecy, but pretty much everything in there that's been prophesied has either happened or is slated to happen. I mean, the prophecies have been 100% accurate, like 100% of the time. Jesus being one of the main, the most definitive example. So, so this stuff is really causing those of us who are watching for the signs, like Jesus said, to really, get kind of antsy, because you don't know, is it going to be a sudden thing? Is there going to be some tribulation, or at least, what we would consider tribulation in America, which would be literally like the power going out. As far as what's to happen and in what order, and will there be a rapture and when, I won't sit here and act like I have studied enough to be able to lay out the order, but I'll tell you this. This is the whole point of the video, so congratulations, you're at 20-minute mark and you're about to get the point of the video. If you are concerned or confused as to why there would be a rapture, you got to understand some things about God, okay? First of all, gosh, where do I start with this? Okay. God has a plan to redeem the world. Okay, part of that plan was Jesus coming to earth, dying for our sins on the cross. Most of us have at least heard of that part of the plan. Okay, that's the first phase of the plan. The reason why Jesus came to die is because we were imperfect, sinful, and slated for destruction, basically. Because after the fall of humankind, there was really no reason for God to keep man around. It was back to the drawing board, let's start over. And we could have all been destroyed, but we weren't. So, basically, what he's able to accomplish with Jesus is sort of this volunteer program of, look, if you're willing to acknowledge that you need a savior, that you want to be saved, literally, like if you were about to throw out a batch of burnt cookies, like if you want to be saved, you take this free gift, which is basically just signing up and volunteering. I don't know if anybody is even listening to these, but the very first video that I left, I sort of outlined this with this whole analogy about, the apartment complex and all that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and look at the first episode of this where I laid out. Well, those people that voluntarily chose God without seeing what he looked like, without any sign of reward, at least on this side of heaven, without any sort of slick incentive, without fame, fortune, or just sheer pure love and willingness to acknowledge truth, love of the truth, those people are going to be saved. They're going to be raptured out. Now, not all of those people are going to be what they say that they are, because God knows the heart. So God knows the heart of the people that have truly chosen him. So even among those who call themselves Christians are going to be the ones that God chooses. So the people that are just playing church, the people that have deceived themselves, that thought that they could get in with their own righteousness, and they persecuted others that weren't as righteous as them, the people who fell away and got caught up in riches and cares of this world, and the people that denied Jesus publicly because they were scared of the opinions of men, the people that chose fame and fortune, that were seduced by positions of power or influence and sort of put Jesus on the back burner, the people who never were seriously had an actual life change, all these different people that are within the Christian community. These are not all the people. It's not like it's just going to be 1 billion people just are going to be gone. We're talking about a very small percentage of people. I don't know how small the percentage of people is, but it ain't as much as most people think. In fact, I think it's going to really, really astound a lot of people. And even I myself am not 100% positive that I'm going to go just because I believe. Every day I'm like, I want to be kind of worthy, because I don't want to be left here, because for as much as we can discern from what Scripture says, what people have said who are experiencing visions of the future, dreams that God's given them, from the most qualified pastor to the lowliest, some housewife that put her video up on YouTube, old, young, little kids having dreams. I mean, this phenomenon has like gone through the roof, like just in the last 4 or 5 years. And that's something that's also been prophesied, that men and women would dream dreams and have visions, and that God would pour His Spirit out on people in the last days, and that there would be this abundance of dreams and visions. And what's funny is, when was there ever a time in history where that could even be corroborated? What would that have looked like before the internet? No one would have been able to say, wow, God's pouring His Spirit out. But when you go on YouTube and you put in dreams and visions, it's endless. You can't watch them all. It's like, when I started getting into them, like, maybe like 2012, there was probably a handful up there, like a dozen, and that was a lot. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And now it's like, to try and spend a day looking at them is just exhausting. They're everywhere. And people all in various stages of their walk with God are getting them. So a lot of people, there's a lot of clues in these dreams and visions, and not everybody is just having the same dream and vision. They're seeing different aspects of this event across time and space. So a lot of people have talked about, what the visual rapture is going to look like. A lot of people will talk about what the state that the world is going to be in, either before or after. Some people feel what it feels like to be someone who doesn't know the Lord and sees this event happen. And some people feel like they're left behind, and they're being left behind for a reason. So after having looked at these for 4+ years, and just listening to the different accounts, and listening to just really trying to understand what they're saying and what that means in the context of the Bible, here's what I'm concluding. The fact that Revelation talks about believers being on the earth at all stages of, every single stage of Revelation, does not mean that there will not be a rapture. Just because it talks about the saints, I guess what I'm assuming is what's happening is that people are going, well, if there's a rapture, then why is God talking about the saints going through tribulation? And it says those who are called to be martyred will be martyred, and those who will be persecuted, this is the time for what is it called? Patience and perseverance on the part of the saints and all this stuff. Here's what's happening. Life is going on. You haven't been paying attention. You don't, whatever. Maybe you're probably a Christian, but you just think, well, no one knows the day or the hour, so I'm not going to worry about it. Boom, the day and the hour comes. People are getting raptured. You're not raptured. Here's what happens. The moment that the rapture does happen, without any fuss, it says that the Lord will come back like a thief in the night for His people. They're just going to be, boom, gone, right? The moment that happens, every believer that did not make it, that list that I laid out before, they're going to immediately know. They're going to immediately know what just happened. They're going to know so bad. They're going to be like, that was the rapture. That was that rapture that I did not believe in, that I thought wasn't till the end, that, I just shrugged off and thought those people were crazy because I didn't believe that signs and wonders and dreams and visions were for today. That is what just happened. I just missed it. Now, that realization is going to cause a number of reactions in people based on the person. some people are literally just going to lose their mind. And this is coming from just the dreams and visions that people have been having, and just like when I put it together in my mind, it just made complete and total sense, because I was confused too. I was confused of all the different, I couldn't put the events of Revelation together in my mind. I was just like, I don't get it. In my heart, I knew there was going to be a rapture, but I just couldn't figure it all out. And when I started watching these dreams and visions that people were having, it was like, of course. Once those believers realize what happened, they're either going to lose their mind, they are going to have this kind of too little too late reaction where they are going to suddenly be this radical on fire Christian in the streets telling people about Jesus. Well, it's too late now. The time of grace is over. You had 2,000 years. It's like God gave so much time, and the world got so bad. Down was up, up was down. The news, the truth was fake, and the fake was real. I mean, he waited. And then it started busting up the land. Like, he's like, all right, I got to take my people out, because here's the thing: the day of judgment, which he's talked about since I'm talking about old prophets. I'm talking about BC, like 1,000 years BC. He's been talking about this day of judgment. The day of judgment was gonna happen. The day of reckoning is gonna happen, where he brings everything into, he squares the accounts. These people that are wondering, well, why does God let these evil things happen? Well, he's not gonna let them happen no more. And the thing is, these people that want God to mete out judgment, they don't realize, they think that they're going to be on the right side of that. But, every Christian with the Spirit of God in him knows we want God to have mercy. We need God's mercy. I'm not going to be like, ooh, here comes God on the wings of the whatever. Thank the Lord, because he needs to get rid of these guilty people down here. That's not the attitude I need to have. I need to be, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. Jesus tarry, because that judgment is going to be nasty. And to think that I'm going to somehow escape it because I'm a Christian is not, no. I've contributed to the pockets of some evil doers. Okay, so I've made some people rich. I'll tell you that with my sin. So we don't need it. We need to just love everybody and have mercy for everybody and fall in the mercy of God, because that's the only thing that assuages his wrath, because he is holy. He has no sin. He is perfect. And imagine when you see somebody do something, when you come home and your house has been broken into, and how you feel, like you being sinful. So imagine what God feels, and he's intimately connected with us, so he can feel what things have done to us. And to think that he's like, has known that there's going to be a day like this coming for thousands of years, that it was going to be no more time for living. Now it's going to be time to make the accounts square. That's what he's been warning us of for thousands of years. And the problem with humans is that after we hear something 5 times, it's like, blah, okay, and we just don't take it seriously. But when he shows up, we're going to feel that feeling of, I have no excuse. I can't say I didn't know. So back to the Christians that are going to be left behind. Some are going to go insane. Some are, they're going to try and kill themselves, because there's a possibility, or there is an often discussed phenomenon about the post-rapture world in which God's presence is basically gone. What we enjoy now, we don't realize is God's presence, because we take it for granted. So as much as there's evil in the world and we complain about that, we have sunlight, we have warmth, we have water and flowers and joy and laughter and all these things that give us comfort. We have comfort, hope, love, all these things that we take for granted that make our life journey better. All them things are going to be gone. And people don't even realize how much they took God for granted until he's gone. And it's going to be very extreme, especially for Christians who basically got to eat of that goodness and be on the vine, be connected to the vine, even though they weren't serious about their faith. They're going to know. And, God, they're going to want to talk to God. He's not going to be there to talk to. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be nasty. So yeah. Christians going insane. Christians trying to kill themselves. Christians just attacking each other, going to their pastor. I remember hearing a dream about people meeting at their church and finding their pastor, who also didn't make it, and just yelling at him and being like, "You said we were going to make it," and just basically like biting each other, and just this extreme despair mixed with rage, mixed with just being without the Spirit of God and not having the Spirit of God anymore to keep them from destroying themselves. Watching over there because mommy's doing something. Okay, yes, I give tiny babies phones and I'm a horrible mother. So, anywho, then you're going to have some Christians who are strong, who are going to be somehow revived, and they're going to be quickened, they're going to be exhilarated by the event. These are probably Christians who, they kind of found, they loved God, or they knew that God existed, they believed in Jesus, but they found Christianity kind of boring. They couldn't figure out what the point was, because their lives were fine and nothing was really nothing was really at stake. These are your friends who are excited about the prospect of a for real zombie apocalypse. That's going to be those people. So it's kind of like, even in the darkest point of civilization, God is still going to have a pocket somewhere at some point, at some time. I have heard that there are some Christians who know they're going to be left, who have volunteered to stay, who want to stay, because it's also an opportunity to gain a larger reward. Because if you've read Revelation and Jesus talking about the reward for those that overcome, it's pretty big. You basically get to rule and reign with Christ, which in my opinion you should, because if you can survive basically the complete and total onslaught of the entire world against you, also not having any access to anything because you're not able to join in the New World Order and take the mark, so you have no access to food, you can't really be caught, you're basically always on the verge of starvation and running, and a lot of people are experiencing this even now, right now, and those are people who are going to be taken. Them people got a first class ticket for sure out of here. There are Christians being persecuted all over the world, and they are for sure going to make it. So yeah. So there's always going to be saints on the earth. There's always going to be saints on the earth. Even once the saints get raptured, from among those that didn't are going to rise up even more saints. And they're going to make other saints as they go, because there are going to be some other people who maybe weren't Christian, but they see the things that are happening, and they have questions and they don't know. And these Christians are going to come and tell them, and these Christians are not going to be, at the coffee shop have you heard about Jesus? They're going to be bold. They're going to be crazy, because they're going to understand that everything that they read about and learned about was true in one moment. And it's going to be so energizing and rejuvenating to some, and so defeating for others, that it's going to go quickly from gray to black and white. once this event happens. So so that's the reason why. Wait, what am I trying to say? So God, the reason why there has to be a pre-tribulation rapture is because God is going to use, not only is that event promised for those who are true in the faith, he's going to use that event to get even more people saved after that event. And those people will have to go through a real tribulation period. And that's going to keep going until the very, very last, which there's more detail about that in Revelation. But so there has to be a pre-tribulation rapture, it's a reward. It's a reward for those people who called upon him and believed in him when things were going great, because things ain't always going to be going great. That's the nature of God. The other thing that I was going to mention was that, the reason why the rapture isn't mentioned more, because I wonder that myself, if it was such a big deal, why isn't it mentioned? Why is it just sort of hinted at? I realized after studying this thing for a while, if you look in Revelation, where it talks about what most people, well, I won't say most people, but what a lot of people pinpoint is the rapture event, because John is in heaven, he sees these signs, and then he suddenly sees this multitude, which he would have no context of, because at this point, there's very few Gentiles in the Christian faith. It's mostly made up of Jews, and it's one generation of Christians. He has no idea that this is going to go all over the whole world. So he sees this multitude of people that he says from every nation, tribe and tongue. And, an angel asked them, who are these people? And he's like, I got no idea. He's like, you tell me. And the angel tells him, that these are, he doesn't say, these are, he says something like, these are the people that come out of the tribulation, which a lot of people go, okay, there's a tribulation, and it's post-trib, and then they get raptured. But, that's kind of up for debate, really, because even the tribulation is a period that a term that we coined based on just the description of all the different events. So this event, a lot of people think is the result of the rapture, where it's just like literally John is looking around and then it's like boop, these people show up in heaven with him. So sorry, that's my kid. I'm trying to keep him out of the room while I'm recording this. You see how much success I'm having. Hold on. Okay. So that point that the people just sort of appear in heaven, a giant multitude, that's chapter 5 of Revelation. It's like 22 chapters, or 21 or something. So this rapture event is relatively unimportant in the scheme of what God has planned. The reason why we care about it so much is because for us, it's the end for us. It's a big deal to us because you're basically transitioning from one life to the next without dying. I mean, it's basically dying, but without, it's the same thing that people who die go through. So it's kind of a big deal to us. It's the end for us. There's nothing to think about after that. So we kind of are done. We're just like, when is that? When is that moment happening? That's all we care about. But for God, that is just one tiny plan in an entire schematic that he's worked out from the beginning, from the foundation of the world. The only reason why there is even a rapture is because he is going to set his sights on judging the world, on finishing this battle with Satan, because Satan after this point there's war in heaven, war breaks out in heaven, and he is plunged to the earth. So, and then his time is short from that moment. So there's all this other stuff going on. So the rapture is moving God's people out of the way, because what do we have to do with any of that? Nothing. So the rapture is moving the people out of the way that belong to him, that are called, that have been chosen by him. Anyone who has not been chosen by him, they are going to have front row seats to this fallout of the final death throes of the earth, and it is going to be brutal. And anyone, even then, the people that waited till it's too late, they still have more hope than those people who have died and are in hell, and that's it, because they have an opportunity to turn in that circumstance. Now, it's going to be a lot harder to choose God when life is basically going to be living hell in various stages and levels perpetually for about 7 years. While it's going to be obvious that he exists, more obvious than it's ever been, it's going to be harder to accept him, because your life's going to be, you thought there was hell on earth. Now it's going to be hell on earth, and the Spirit of God is not. There's not going to be any prompting you, and there's not going to be conviction. There's not going to be any more preliminary, like, come to Jesus. That grace time is over with. So it's going to be sheer will that you accept him. So it's going to be the same setup, but with a lot less. It's not going to be any. I was going to say something kind of vulgar, so I won't say that. But it's not going to be pleasant. So, and it's going to be like that right up to the very end. I mean, it's going to start getting weird. The sun is going to start just the seasons are going to be all out of whack. The sun's going to start being able to just scorch people. It's just going to send out little lightning rays and just scorching people. And people are going to, and it says, every time that another bowl of wrath is poured out, it says, and the people still didn't repent, and the people still didn't repent, and they still didn't stop worshiping their idols, and they still, and you read it in Revelation, what is wrong with these people? But, just understanding the context of the world, even me, I'm just I don't think I could survive that. I don't think I could make it in those circumstances. So, it's going to be rough. But yeah, the rapture is just one little blip in a long, ongoing plan that he has. I mean, even after he's done judging, Revelation still goes on for 3 or 4 chapters about 1,000-year periods. I mean, we're talking about epochs in this final book from where we are. So this is just, it's extensive. God's got it all figured out. So, that's the reason why the rapture isn't mentioned that much. It's just, it's something for those who believe, for something, a promise for them to keep. And if you don't know about it, then read the rest, because that part's about you, basically. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about that, because I know there was a lot of confusion about it. The people that say that, those people are just, these Christians that just want to escape everything and wake up, you're not going to escape anything. It's okay, you don't really understand the scriptures, and you don't understand the character of God, and just going through things is not godly. I mean, you're not dissecting this far enough. Going through persecution, facing persecution is not the godliest thing. There's a context for it, and there's a reason for it. So don't hope for a post-tribulation rapture, which first of all doesn't make sense, because why would anybody go up to heaven after a tribulation just to come back down and be on earth with Jesus for the New Jerusalem? It's we're going up and he's coming down. That doesn't make sense. So, mid-tribulation sort of makes sense, but, and there have been some people that have dreamed multiple rapture events where they saw the signs in the sky and they knew that God was taking more people. Okay, so let's see, is there anything else I wanted to talk about that? Yeah, so I just felt like no one seemed to be clearing up the rapture confusion. So let me be one of those people and I guess we can talk about it more in the comments or whatever. And maybe I'll put in some videos that I can recommend. I might just, I have a blog that's also kind of like a rapture watch blog, so I might just put the link up to that has a ton of like different videos and dreams and visions and all types of scholarly things up, if you're more interested in it. So okay, well, bless everybody listening to this, and Lord, just let my video do some good, and y'all have a good night.